Welcome to Mindvine TV. We're here on location at our very own site here in Whitby, Ontario Shores. And my name is Daryl Mathers. We have a very special guest who's actually coming home today. This is Deputy Premier and Minister of Health, Christine Elliott. Welcome.
Thank you. Great to join you.
So we know you're currently the MVP in Newmarket Aurora, but you were a longtime MVP and member of the community here. So maybe tell us a little bit about why you came home today and the announcement that your government made.
Well, I'm a big fan of the work that's being done here at Ontario Shores, and of course I have a great attachment to it personally, having had been the MPP for 9 years for Whitby Oshawa. So it was really important to me that we were announcing our provincial strategy for mental health and addictions to come back to Ontario Shores. It feels like home and the appropriate place for this announcement.
So before we get into the other announcement you made today, tell us about the strategy and maybe some of the core or guiding principles behind it.
Well, this strategy was developed after extensive consultations with people across the province, with people who are clinicians, researchers, frontline care providers, but also people with lived experience and their families. We really needed to understand what people wanted in terms of services, but also what existed and what gaps in services a lot of the clinicians saw. So it was those consultations that really helped us develop this plan.
So after we discussed the plan this morning, you made an announcement that I'm sure your government hopes is going to impact lives of people impacted by mental illness. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, we are introducing a comprehensive plan. Currently, we don't have a plan for mental health and addiction services in Ontario. We noted that almost 10 years ago with a select committee on mental health and addictions. So we now have established a mental health and addiction center of excellence that's going to be the foundation upon which we will build the plan. So they will be able to collect data, which is really important. They'll be able to help develop best practices and make sure they can scale them up across the province. And they'll also develop the core services that need to be available in each community across Ontario. So that's sort of the foundation of the plan. But I think one of the biggest new pieces that we're bringing forward is a program called Mindability. And it will be cognitive behavioral therapy that will be available to people that have issues with mild anxiety and depression, which are two of the biggest problems that people with mental health challenges have. That will be provided in the same way as OHIP provides services at no cost to the patient. We know that there are many, many people waiting for services in Ontario right now, and Mindability is going to help us deal with that wait list.
In addition to the services that you announced today and increased access to people in Ontario, and in the strategy, we also heard somebody with lived experience who's been through the system, something that you're close to, having headed the select committee 10 years ago. With this strategy, with the additional funding, knowing what we know about how difficult it is for families dealing with mental illness, what would you want this strategy and this funding and future funding announcements to achieve for Ontarians?
Well, we want to, as I said, create a connected system, a comprehensive system. So with mental health goes physical health, so we need to make sure that we can connect the two of them, which we will do through the local Ontario health teams. But the other issue that came up through our discussions today was dealing with some of the social determinants of health. Housing, making sure people have proper access to food, to employment opportunities, all of those issues that our local Ontario health teams will be able to help work on as well. We keep talking about working on social determinants of health. Our plan, working with the local Ontario health teams, will actually make a difference and improve the situation for many Ontarians.
Well, thank you very much for coming back home today to make this announcement. Thank you for your time and your experience in mental health and for your commitment to improving the system. Thank you very much.
Thank you. It's a great pleasure to join you today.
Great job. Thank you. Joined now by President and CEO Karim Mamdani, following our announcement by the Deputy Premier and Minister of Health, Christine Elliott. Karim, the announcement today, what does that mean for specifically Ontario Shores and the people who rely on our services for help?
I'm hopeful. I think the Minister made a really strong commitment to funding for access to services. as you well know, Daryl, we have quite a wait list for our outpatient volume. And so it's important for us to be able to offer services in a much more timely fashion. And I'm hopeful that this means that funding is going to come to address wait times more generally.
The minister spoke specifically about CBT, their Mindability program. We currently offer that as part of a pilot project. Can you give people an idea of why CBT is worthwhile investing for the government?
Well, I mean, if you look at it just from the perspective of what people's experiences are, it's one of the programs that gives us the greatest volume of compliments. People really enjoy the program because they're getting better out of it. They're seeing enormous change. I think the second thing is it's an evidence-based treatment. And so because it's evidence-based, we know that we can start and stop it and see substantial change in outcomes for that individual, and we can measure that. And I think lastly, it means that we're able to get out into the community. This isn't something that people have to come to us for service. We are in the community, we're embedded in the community, and people can access service in the community.
As part of today's events, you participated in a panel discussion with partners and different stakeholders in the system. And one of the things you mentioned was a need for all of us to collaborate, think maybe put the system ahead of ourselves in some cases. Are you hopeful that we're getting to that spot where we are going to be collaborating, we are going to be working together, and the system is going to be easier for people with lived experience to navigate?
I think the first step is always for the leaders in the system to come together to create that type of dialogue about it being more than individual organizations, it being more than community or hospitals. It's about us collectively and our clients and how our clients fare in the system. So I think that's the first step. There's a long way to go, right? I mean, Ontario Health, through the creation of these Ontario Health teams, means that we have to work with organizations that are embedded in other organizations. And so how do we do that? I think, through the work of something like the Center for Excellence, it'll give us an opportunity to work with all these organizations and connect them to the work that we need to be able to do from a systems perspective. So I think it's a good first step, but a long way to go.
Thank you very much for your time, Karim.
I want to thank the Centre for Addiction and Mental Health, Ontario Shores, Royal Ottawa Mental Health Centre, Waypoint Centre for Mental Health Care, Ontario Telemedicine Network, and the Canadian Mental Health Association for their important work in helping to develop this program. Thank you.